Next up, we have the Libertarian candidate for governor, Krawchuk, businessman, joins us for the next 20 minutes.
You're up, Al. I'll ask you the same question that I began with our first candidate. Article 8, Section 8 of the Pennsylvania Constitution. What does that mean to you?
People who know me know that I always carry my Constitution with me. And by the way, I should start off by saying thank you to the Pennsylvania Leadership Conference for inviting me today. This is my first time I've been here. I've met a lot of like-minded people. It's great to be here. First of all, you'll see that my Constitution is tabbed. One of those tabs is that very article, because I see that as the cause of our pension crisis. I ran for governor in 2002 against Ed Rendell and Mike Fisher. And back then, the pension crisis was still young. There was a big cutback in the stock market, and that led to the pension crisis in the first place. And I raised that issue saying, somebody's breaking the law. We should not be breaking the law. We should not be investing taxpayer money, as you put it before, making the citizens into venture capitalists. We should not be doing that. So I would be against any sort of investment like that. Michelle?
Well, then that takes me back to the first question that I asked. We do know that we are suffering from pension and Medicaid costs. That is the two biggest costs facing the state and the municipalities. I'll ask you the same question. How do we get across to the average person that this is a crisis, that it will not solve itself, the pension reform is not paying down the liability? How do we make them understand that their own pensions in the future could be risked if we would go broke as a state?
Well, let's take those one at a time, Michelle. First of all, the pension crisis. As I said, we know what caused it. Now, what do you and I do when we don't have enough money? We tighten our belts, we prioritize, we figure out what it is we can afford to do and what we can't afford to do. Obviously, with the money that we have in the pension fund right now, there's not enough to do what we need to do. So what I would do is I would recapitalize that pension fund. There are promises made. I don't know who made them. They made them illegally. Somebody broke the law to make those promises. So what I would do is I would take the cash that we have available to the pension fund and refigure out the benefits that could come from that and turn it from a defined contribution, defined benefit to a defined contribution, what's ever left. Now, I know that's going to leave a lot of teachers high and dry. So what I would propose is that we, the people, let's hold a telethon. How many people love their teachers? Right? I had some great teachers. Would you contribute to help them, to help save the pension fund? Something like a Jerry Lewis telethon for teachers. Because you can't hold a gun to the people of Pennsylvania for illegal promises. We do what we can, we prioritize. Just like when I get to Thursday and I wait for Friday's paycheck.
But you can't turn a defined contribution to the people who already have a defined benefit. They're guaranteed to continue on in that plan.
That's true, but as I said, the way I would fund it is by turning to the people of Pennsylvania and asking for voluntary contributions. And if those voluntary contributions fall short, then we renegotiate those illegal deals that we made in the first place. So that's half your question. The other half is Medicaid. The question is, how do we get across to people the importance and the impact of Medicaid? And whenever somebody asks me about any kind of federal money coming into Pennsylvania, I look at federal money like a drug. The feds say, here, have some money, it won't hurt. And we accept it. But it's like a drug dealer saying, here, have some drugs, it's not going to hurt. And a little more, a little more. Next thing you know, you're addicted to federal money. And I think that's the case now. We've got to end that addiction. Now, there's a very good reason why we should not accept federal money. Do you know what happens? Let me get out my wallet here. Do you know what happens when you send $1 to Washington? The first thing that happens to that dollar, most of it vanishes into bureaucracy. And this is what comes back to the states. But like any government, the state has its own bureaucracy. Most of it vanishes again. This is what comes back to help the sick people. You're lucky if you get a dime on the dollar back from every federal dollar you send. I don't think we should have the Medicaid program set up federally. I think we should do it on a more local level, because that way you could help 10 times as many people. You could build 10 times as many roads, educate 10 times as many kids. Federal money is just a bad idea, and I will work not to accept it.
And I hope you don't have to do this too many times again. Just didn't make a lot of campaigns.
Don, you know what I do? I tape them back together and I spend them.
Okay.
By the way, if somebody wants his dollar bill, I'll trade it for the Federal Reserve.
So tell me, during this campaign stretch, Ken, because we've talked over the years, of course, what do you see as an issue for Libertarian in Pennsylvania? Where I am in Philadelphia, Delaware County, we've seen some inroads at some of the lower offices that Libertarians have been elected, or they change the outcome of an election. What's the big issue for Libertarians, aside from what we've talked about with the other two panelists?
That's a great question, Don, because you see, we Libertarians are different from the two old parties, because we are the party of principle. Every law we support, every law we oppose, can all be traced back to one central idea. The idea that your life is yours, that your property is yours, that you have the inalienable right to live your life your way, without interference.
Again, I want to agree with you. So I want to ask you, is there a specific issue right now that you think can help to, a lot of people agree with this, but you know what the problem is. They see the Libertarian Party, they read something in the media or whatever, and they dismiss it. Is there a particular issue going on right now that you take the core of these principles in Pennsylvania that you think could galvanize something?
Absolutely, and I was getting there.
Okay.
In order to know where we're going from the core principle, I had to start with the core principle.
Okay.
Your life, your way, as long as you respect the rights and property of others. Without a doubt, the biggest problem that Pennsylvania is facing is taxes. Who thinks taxes are too low? Oh wait, my microphone cut out. Nobody's listening. Nobody's applauding. No, taxes are high. As a matter of fact, taxes are through the roof. Do you know that over the last 50 plus years, the cost of government in Pennsylvania has been rising at more than 3 times the rate of inflation? It doesn't matter if you're a Republican or a Democrat. In 1964, you were paying $100. Today, you're paying about $2,500. When I'm governor, that trend will end, because I'm promising I'm going to veto every single tax increase that crosses my desk. And so that will stop the growth of the cost of government in Pennsylvania, but I can roll back the cost of government because I have line item veto. Something, power given to the governor by the Constitution, and I'm going to use it aggressively. I'm going to cut out all of these crazy little pork barrel things, all these unconstitutional things, like, for example, that illegal gun registry that the state police like to have, that communistic bill part. Gone, 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 gone. You know, one other thing I want to do with the line item veto, can you imagine going through the law and striking out individual words? Change it around a little bit? It's going to look like one of those ransom notes that they cut out of the newspaper all the time. Taxes are going to go down when I'm governor. You're going to have more money in your pocket, money to spend on ice cream for your grandkids, your own education, and tearing up your dollar bill. Thank you.
If being a libertarian, you would subscribe to the Austrian School of Economics.
I'm a computer guy. I'm not an economist. I just know how things work.
One of the great Austrian economics of the modern age was James Buchanan, and he was the late economics Nobel laureate. And in 1977, he noted the government is often declared to be the only reliable supplier of public goods. But in fact, he continued, government too often undermines the provision of public goods, even as it does so in the name of public goods. Now, what areas of government would you deem worthy of privatization?
Lots. Right now, 80% of Pennsylvania's budget is dedicated toward giveaway programs. So that's where I'd start. You start with the biggest one. If you do a small percentage cut, it's got a huge end result. One of the things that I'm supporting is called the Universal Charitable Credit Act. Arizona has done this, and it has worked very well. What they're doing is they're moving the various social programs, the giveaway programs, out of government and into the private sector, and I'm in favor of that. But I don't, thank you very much. But I don't want some bureaucrat deciding what goes in, what goes out. I want you to decide. And that's why the Charitable Credit Act is so important. Because you can contribute to whatever charity you feel is worthy, and you can deduct that money dollar for dollar off of your state taxes. And one by one, we start moving these well-intentioned programs out of government into the private sector, where they're a little more accountable financially speaking. And as I said, Arizona's been doing it. It's been very, very well done. I'm in favor of separation of society and state.
Building on that, I was looking at your website, and you have this idea, it's pretty radical, I think, to have a parallel government, I suppose it is, that will be funded by volunteer funds. And if they'll be elected just like our regular government would be elected?
That is correct. What she's referring to is the theme of my novel, Atlas Snubbed, the parody sequel to Iron Man's Atlas Shrugged. Who's read Atlas Shrugged? I'm in the right group, I can tell. The idea is that we should actually have a quote-unquote social contract. It would look just like the United States Constitution. So there'd be a president of society, a Congress of society, and we could do it at the state level, a governor of society, a state house of society, and the local level. It would parallel them in every manner except for one key item. This government, this society, would not have the coercive power of taxation. That means that they could pass a Social Security Act, but they couldn't hold a gun to your head and garnish your wages to pay for it. They could fund free public education around the state, but they couldn't tax your property to pay for it. They could put in curb cuts in your local city, but they couldn't do an earned income tax to pay for it. All money would be voluntarily contributed. That would act as a governor, pardon the pun, on spending. Again, if you only have so much money, that's all there is. When people say, oh, what about the free riders, Ken? Okay, I'm not worried about it. If one person in 10 contributes, we know that. You can plan ahead with that with your budget and base your budget on that money. And if there's a disaster like the hurricane relief, people give in buckets when it comes to things like that. But then you find out, oh, the Red Cross wasted it on 10 million tarps they didn't use, or the United Way gave it to some abortion group or something like that. And you don't want that. If you had society where people were elected to choose these voluntary guidelines, then you could vote the bum out if he's going to be a bad person. And if you really feel strongly about supporting society, then you could do that. So Sally Struthers might be the president of National Society. I would be the governor of Pennsylvania Society.
Here's practical questions, though. How do you get people to run for these offices? Especially, I'm assuming you're not really going to pay them a great deal of salary or benefits.
Would you like to run? Think of it this way. The people who would run for society, by definition, would be caring people because they want to see the needy people helped. That's why I'm thinking to myself, I'd be one of the people who run for that right away. Since they're already the caring, needy people, there's a lot of them out there. Americans are more generous than any other people on the planet. So I don't think that would be an issue. I think
we can get people to come out and vote. We have a hard time getting people to come out and vote for our system as it is.
We're going to talk about that too. That's a separate thing. But no, if that comes back to the same question as the free rider issue. If 30% or 70% of the people don't want to participate, fine. The rest of us will help the needy. Everybody doesn't agree on everything. There's no two people who agree on everything. But by bringing them together in society, they can argue about it, discuss the best way to help the needy, the best way to get prescription drugs to the seniors, the best way to educate our children, the best way to take care of this crazy opioid crisis.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the drug aspect of this in Libertarians. Over the years, and I've had on national people and all that, that's a rap against Libertarians. Just any drug at any time, no laws, anything at all. And yet we have the opiate crisis right now. Yet we have in New Jersey a move to legalize marijuana. Pennsylvania may be next. What do you think you would say as a governor toward dealing with the opiate crisis, illegal drugs, and marijuana?
Well, first of all, the way you phrase that question, it's not really a rap against us. It's actually our pride to end this insane war on drugs. And let me tell you why with relation to the opioid crisis. Studies have been done, and do you realize that virtually every single opioid death is accidental? Two main reasons why that happens. Because they're mixing the opioids with other commonly available drugs, whether they're illicit or illicit, and the combination, the person dies. They didn't mean to die. But the more stronger case is because the drugs they're buying are street drugs. There's no quality control. So you're going to get fentanyl in there. You don't know what it is. Can you imagine going into a bar, saying, yeah, give me a beer, you take a sip, and
Right, but Ken,
vodka, dude!
So let's cut the chase. You're proposing that we help people through a purity of drugs to inflict this damage on their life, yet bail them out from dying while they're damaging themselves severely.
Well, I come at it from 2 points of view.
Okay.
I don't see it as we're not bailing them out. But it comes back to my principle, the central principle. You have the right to live your life your way without interference, provided you respect the rights of property of others. Well, let me finish.
Well, I'm one of the others. How about me? This use of, do you think people are just going to consume these in the most pristine laboratory type of conditions?
No. And 2 reasons why. First of all, it's not my duty to tell you how to run your life. I hope you don't do drugs, but if you do, what am I going to do, put you in a cage?
No, I'm asking about my right not to be inflicted upon if you're on the roads or if you're violent or whatever the other situation may come out of this.
Crime stands on its own regardless of the cause. So if somebody's drunk and crashes into you,
Right.
it's a legal drug, they should stand trial. If somebody is on whatever, they should stand trial. That's punishment for the crime. I don't care why you did it. You may hate somebody because of the color of their skin or their religion. I don't care why. I don't believe in thought crime.
So your solution to the opiate crisis, not solution, but as governor, solution would be to do what? Higher quality opiate drugs.
Well, let me finish up with one thing. Portugal has made all drugs legal. Their opioid deaths have plummeted. Their crime has plummeted. My solution, when I'm governor, I go to my friend, the Constitution. The Constitution gives the governor the power over pardon and commuting sentences. My first day in office, I'm going to start the ball rolling to pardon every single non-violent drug offender that's currently in prison.
Well, can I ask you the definition of non-violent drug offender? How about a guy who is a major drug dealer, kilos of drugs? Is that a non-violent drug offender?
Who is he offending? He's selling the drugs. The person who has hurt themselves.
Excuse me, who is he offending?
He hasn't offended him.
He hasn't.
No. Well, what was the crime that was committed? What person has been damaged? If there's no victim, there's no crime.
Tons of victims. The people that are innocent victims, children and others, of somebody making a profit off of selling a deadly product.
No. Gun makers earn a profit off selling.
No, that is a Second Amendment right. I don't need to tell you that's a constitutional, it's a protection right. They are not selling a deadly product. Ken, I would tell you there's a big difference to me between a drug dealer and Smith & Wesson.
Let me talk about a drug dealer. My brother came down with Hodgkin's disease. That's lymphatic cancer. And in order to combat the nausea and the loss of appetite from the chemotherapy drugs, the doctor said the best thing I can tell you to do is go out and buy some marijuana. This is maybe 20 years ago. My brother's fine now, by the way, and he survived. The person my brother bought that marijuana from, if he did, I won't say he did, what would you call that guy? Would you call him a criminal, or would you call him a hero? So when you look at it and say, oh, the pusher. Now, if he's pushing drugs on kids or something like that, he should stay safely in prison. But if you're just kicking back, watching The Simpsons, smoking a joint, you're going to get a get out of jail free card from this governor.
Okay, we're not talking about marijuana, though. We do have medical marijuana, thank God.
Yeah, what did it take, 2 years? Do you know what we should do? We should just legalize it right off the bat.
All right,
My daughter,
we have time for one other.
war on drugs is insane. I'm going to end it when I'm governor.
The conservatives and even libertarians generally consider themselves to be conservationists when it comes to the environment. Liberals and progressives typically call themselves environmentalists. Where do you stand on the balance between reasonable regulation and environment?
Wow, that's a great question, because I'm a huge environmental person. In fact, we camped out last night coming here. My wife and I met on a camping trip. So we're out there all the time. We do whitewater canoeing. I love Pennsylvania's rivers, Lehigh and everything like that. We need to protect our environment. But what I would consider reasonable regulation is to bring in one of the laws we already have on the books. I would like to treat pollution as a trespass. So if your water, your dirty air, whatever is leaking onto somebody else's property or their air, even a bright light shining on your house, we treat that as a trespass. You would have all the options, all the remedies available to you against trespassers to use against the polluters. You can make them stop, you can force them to clean it up, and if they don't, you start fining them, jail them, everything that's right there now for trespass, we can use for the environment. So we can clean up the environment, and we would be responsible for looking and saying, hey, my neighbor, look what he's doing. And you can just use trespass. So we can clean up the environment using the existing laws. Answer your question? Thank you.
Well, Ken, thank you. Thanks very much. Thanks for joining us today. Thanks for